Fearless friends, it's Amy Schmidt, and today's F-word is going to be how we fearlessly face our 50s. Yep, our 50s. You know what, today's guest is incredible. I just watched her movie last night. It was a premiere night, actually, and I watched it on Apple TV, and I sat there, and I actually, in my phone, wrote down several things that we're going to discuss during this episode, a few little notes. But today I have on the show Brooke Berman. She's an award-winning playwright, filmmaker, and memoirist. She wrote and directed Ramona at Midlife, which recently premiered at Geena esteemed Bentonville Film Festival. Her plays have been seen across the country and internationally. She's the author of 3 nonfiction books, including the memoir No Place Like Home, published by Random House. Brooke Berman, I am so excited to have you on the show today. Well, hey, fearless friends. Like I said in the intro, this is going to be an awesome episode. And you know what? My guest, Brooke Berman. Welcome, Brooke.
Thank you.
I'm so excited. You're sitting in your son's room, which I just am calling out because I just think that's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Why not?
I always tell people so that they know the anime books aren't mine. And they know the samurai sword isn't mine.
Isn't yours. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. I love this. So I have to just set the stage by saying I watched Ramona at Midlife last night. I want to go back to this film, and I have to actually take my phone out because I have to read something. And I didn't tell Brooke about this before. This is one of the quotes from the movie last night. People in midlife wake up and they realize they have become someone they haven't intended. I loved that. I wrote it down. My husband was watching the movie with me. I know. I just it gave me goosebumps because it's so true. I mean, is there really this midlife awakening that's like, wow, who am I now?
Well, look, I'm not an expert on midlife. I mean, I wrote a fictional story about fictional characters and I put words in their mouth. So I can only speak from my experience. Right. But while I was writing the movie, I got really, really interested. I had a couple of projects I was writing around the same time. And each of the 3 of them hinged around the idea of when we were 25 and we looked into the future, who we imagined we'd become, and a confrontation between that imaginary self and the person we actually became, right? Because you're never going to intuit it exactly the right way. It's always going to be a little different than you imagined. So in this kind of midlife reckoning, there are the girls that we were at 25. And then there's the fantasy of what it would be like to be 50. I mean, I imagined that 50-year-olds were, not done, but settled.
Yeah.
I imagined that 50-year-olds had really done the heavy lifting of their lives, had become the people they needed to become, and were, basically coasting till death.
Yeah.
And that, in fact, is not true. And I don't know if it's particular to our generation that it's no longer true because the structures have upended, or if it was always not true. I mean, my grandma, certainly, who's one of my role models, she had a whole second life in her 50s and then a third life in her 70s.
Did she really? Oh, okay. That's amazing.
She did.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she did. She was a stay-at-home mom when her kids were little. And then after my mom got married, she went back to work as a real estate agent, and she had a whole life then. And then after her husband died in her 70s, she actually then had a whole other chapter, and she recommitted to selling houses. She sold houses in Detroit, but moved into an apartment and had a community, and she worked until she was 95.
Did she really? That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I mean, it is really interesting. I think there's so much that we these layers that we just peel back in our 50s. You kind of rediscover and uncover things about yourself you didn't realize. I certainly know I did. And I don't know about you, but I really feel there is that awakening.
Absolutely. And look, I didn't become a mom until later. So we're the same age, and your son is grown up in London, and my son's a 14-year-old in his freshman year of high school. And I'm getting texts all day, can he get off his phone, please? Exactly. The teachers are like, please tell him to get off his phone. Because I didn't have a child till I was 41. So I spent my 40s sitting on playgrounds.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? I mean, and so many women did. So many women did.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about Gen Xers, you know, I think about, we kind of were that generation of, we can do it all, right? I mean, we were kind of, the world is like, we were kind of, I think, kind of sold that bill of goods of, was it private school or public school? Was it a stay-at-home mom or did you work? Was it, you know, all of that? We kind of had those choices, but we felt
the baby boomers gave that to us. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we inherited that from our mother's generation. I don't think we made that up.
You think we did? Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. There was this feeling of like, we could do it all. And we were really striving to do it all.
I mean, I think so. I can only speak for myself. And all I ever wanted was to be a theater artist. So I moved to New York when I was 18 and I built a career in the theater. And honestly, I wasn't thinking about having it all. I just was doing things in the order they came.
Have you always been like, if I was to sit down with your mom and if your grandma was still alive, would I, and I ask them, you know, hey, was Brooke always super creative?
Yeah, I come from a creative family. My mom was a concert pianist. My grandma had wanted to be a singer, but then gave it up to have kids. And my mom gave up her piano to have me. My mom's sister is painter. Like my cousins are musicians. I sort of come from that.
You do. I love that. I love that. So you've always had that. That's in your genes. I always ask people, like, when was it for you when your passion and purpose really intersected?
Oh, that is such an excellent, excellent question. I mean, honestly, I think it was in my 30s. I went to graduate school at 28. So I was in grad school from 28 to 30. And I think that was when my passion and my purpose collided. And it was when I committed to being a playwright, because up until then I had been a performer and I had written and I had produced, and my hands were in a lot of different creative baskets. And then I had this opportunity to go to Juilliard and study with Marcia Norman. And it's really where I got my ducks in a row.
Wow.
And committed to like one thing, which was playwriting, and really set about learning that craft. And I think it was in those years. And then I had a bunch of plays that were produced, and then that led to films. And I'd always wanted to make a film, but I didn't know how. It seemed super overwhelming. And like there was this whole technical side. And
is it completely different? Is it completely different?
It's completely
so for someone
different.
listening or watching, walk us through that. Like, it's just completely different. How you write it, how you create it.
All of the above. All of it's completely different. Playwrights kind of dream up the play, and then we have lots and lots of time in rehearsal with actors. We workshop the play. We go to these little development colonies. There's a lot of time where the play is this protected thing between artists, and we're making it better and making it better and making it better, and then we bring it to market, right? So you hear these stories about Lin-Manuel Miranda in Hamilton, for example, and like he had the idea when he was like a undergrad at Wesleyan, and then he was like writing, and then they would do these workshops, and then it's very far down the line where they start to bring in the business people and figure out how to market it and how to sell it and how to bring it to audiences and all of that. Film is the opposite. So generally in film, you pitch an idea, you get hired to write that idea, you attach cast pretty early, you bring in the writer and the director, and you're always, even from the inception, selling. And film has to get made in a very specific number of days because you're paying people by the day. So you have to have a rock solid plan. There's not a lot of room for like figuring it out. And figuring it out is my favorite part, the collaboration.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As a creative.
It's very, film is very, very, very practical.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So I want you to take me to that moment of the premiere at Geena Davis's esteemed Bentonville Film Festival. I mean, that's huge. And I want you to walk me through this because I feel as though a lot of times in our 50s and beyond, our inner critic is very noisy and our inner cheerleader is muted. Like we are just, and I have to be honest with you, I do a lot of media and there's a lot of times when I have to go back and watch it or I see the segment and I'm like, oh. are they going to get me from that right angle? Are they going to get me from this? Am I going to look 10 pounds heavier? That inner critic, even though I know my message is really good, I still fight that to this day.
Oh, Amy, I feel that way every day. I
Do
feel
you?
that way every day.
Okay, then we're soul sisters.
Of course I do.
I mean,
I feel that way right now. I didn't know we were going to be on camera.
I know you did. And I'm like, no stress. No, you look beautiful. But that inner critic is so loud. So take me to that premiere because walk me through that.
I always wish I were taller. I always wish I were 5 pounds lighter. I always wish I were a little blonder. I always rethink my choice to not Botox. Like I don't do that. But then I think oh, geez, maybe I should. Really, Brooke?
Me too.
I think that's really human.
It is human. It is human. So true. So true. I know I got on the scale and I was measured the other day at my physical and I'm like, oh, please still be 5'4". Still feel, I'm like, please. I was. So that was good. But what were you feeling as the curtains probably didn't open, but for our viewers and listeners, let's just say the curtains opened and this film starts. And you're sitting there. What are you looking at? Are you watching it or are you looking at people's reactions?
Well, by the time we had our world premiere, so you're talking about our world premiere on the festival circuit, which was at Geena Davis's Bentonville Film Festival in June of 2023.
Wait a minute.
Amazing.
Just
sure.
Say that again. I mean, you said that it was just a Geena Davis's film. You got to own that, girl.
All right. We had our world premiere at Geena Davis's Bentonville Film Festival. Geena herself introduced the film, so that was thrilling. I got to meet her, which was thrilling. And it was really exciting, but I think you have to understand, as a middle-aged mom, I'm always caretaking. People keep asking me, are you enjoying this? And I think, well, I don't know. Am I? Because in my brain, I'm working through the logistics of everybody else's experience. Does that person have what they need? Did catering show up on time? That sound cue feels off to me. How does the actress feel right now? Is somebody taking care of her? What are we doing after this? Did somebody set up the after party? What's going on with that bill that I know I need to pay? How are we getting to I'm a mom.
Yes.
So I'm always momming my way through it. I don't know what enjoying it means at this exact moment,
right.
but there are moments when it really hits me. And the most exciting thing, honestly, is when people see the film and want to come talk about it with me. Or, the most thrilling thing on the festival circuit is that people really feel seen by this movie. And there's a sector, not just women, but also some stay-at-home dads who come up to me afterwards and say, that was my journey. I had that experience. That's how I feel. And that's what matters to me, that we're really connecting with audiences. Because look, there are all these movies about middle-aged women on the marketplace right now, but very few of us are injecting the toxic substance or having the kink relationship, or, in the case of that delightful Anne Hathaway movie, dating a rock star. Most of us are Ramona. Most of us are just figuring out how to make room for ourselves on a small human scale.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you go about casting? How do you find that she was fabulous? She was fabulous and so beautiful.
Isn't she great?
Oh,
I know.
And relatable. Honestly, relatable. Just okay, yeah, I get this. Wow. My shoulders dropped a couple times during the film because I was whew, just deep breath. Wow, I get this. I feel this.
Oh, I'm so glad. If your shoulders drop, then I'm doing my job.
Yeah, they did. They did. They really did. I had to stop it a couple of times because my husband was like, "Oh, Amy," and I was typing in my notes because I knew we had this interview, and I'm like, I got to write that down because it's so good. It really was good, But how do you go about filling those spots? You've written this, you kind of have an idea in your mind, right, of who you want to cast?
Well, I actually wrote it for that actress.
You did. Okay.
So that actress that you're talking about, I wrote the movie for her.
Okay.
And I developed the movie with the actors who are actually in it, which is a rare luxury in the conventional Hollywood system. Before this movie, I'd been in development with another movie for, I'm going to tell you, 8 years.
Wow.
8 years. Because in the conventional Hollywood model, what you do is you get a movie star, and then based on the movie star, or at this point, it's really 3 or 4 movie stars, then you can go get your funding, because you can say to a financier, I have this extraordinary movie star that everybody wants to go see. And so, you'll make your money back. And that was exactly how my other project, that was the hill my last project died on, because we spent 2 years making offers to extraordinary actresses who were probably never going to say yes to a small scale movie.
Right.
And we couldn't get our $1 million budget without one of those names. So the movie didn't get made. And when I turned 50 and the pandemic happened 5 seconds later,
Yep.
I just felt like I didn't have time to waste anymore. I had played by the rules. I had done what everyone told me to do. I had followed every known coordinate about how to make my first movie. And when that wasn't working, I took matters in my own hands and I did it my own way. And if I'm going to do it my own way, then I'm going to cast who I want.
Amazing.
I'm going to cast people I trust. I'm going to cast people I've worked with before. I'm going to cast theater actors. I'm going to cast people who we can get on set and make stuff up together. Yeah. And I trust their instincts, fully.
Oh, well, you hit it out of the ballpark. They were all phenomenal.
Thanks.
Really were.
Weren't they all great? I love them so much.
I want to talk a little bit about something that comes up often, especially at this stage of our life, women of a certain age, I guess. And that question of help. I've had certain circumstances in my life. I took a hiatus from the podcast for a bit because of some health things in our family. And it was a time, actually, Brooke, and I talk about this in some other episodes, where I actually needed to ask for help. Like, I really needed help. And in my 30s, in my 20s, when I'm like, I'm a broadcaster, I'm a journalist, I'm doing all of this, and I wanted to get there the fastest I could, further fastest, and I do it by myself. Like, I can control it all. I can do it better if I do it by myself. And then in my 50s, a bunch of things hit, and it was like loss of parents, moving back from being in Germany for 6 years, all of these different things. And I was like, man, if I actually used my resources and I actually put out there, hey, I need some help, you just grow in so many ways. Have you found that? Or are you still kind of like, I got to do it myself? You found that. Okay.
No, absolutely. And I'm smiling while you're saying that, because I don't know if you remember, but that's in the movie. There's a moment when Ramona's ex says, will you be okay? And she goes, I'm always okay.
Yes.
Because that, in fact, is that hyper controlled, I can do it all. I have to do it all. I can't accept help. I'm always okay. It becomes armor, right?
Yes.
Yes, I had to accept help so much on this movie. I was a woman in her 50s who had never made a feature before. So there was a ton of stuff I didn't know how to do. In my 40s, I changed lanes from primarily being a writer to being a writer-director. And that was huge. I went to work. I got a job teaching screenwriting at NYU Grad Film. And while I was teaching my students to write, I was learning visual logic from them. I was really, I used that job as my second graduate school. I went to every meeting. I went to faculty meetings. I went to guest speakers. I went to, programs in the evening so that I could learn what the students were learning. And I could learn to think with a camera, which was really new for me. And then I needed help figuring out how to make a budget. I'd never really made a budget for a film before. I needed help. I had one of my good friends is a filmmaker who's more established than me. And he talked me through every scene of my movie. I asked him to mentor me. And he did. I
love that M word, mentor. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
Wow. I love to hear that, because I think so often so many of us get stuck saying, I can just do it myself. There's also this factor of our stage of life where the two Ps, the evil twins, I call them, perfectionism, procrastination, I'm going to wait till the timing's right to do this. So, I'm just going to wait a little longer, or I'm just going to wait till I've lost this 10 pounds or this 5 pounds. You mentioned it earlier in the conversation, I'm just going to wait. I'd be waiting forever. But that happens so often.
You can't wait.
Yeah, you can't wait. Mm-hmm. So at 52, you wrote your first film, right? 52.
Well, no. I had written other films before. Okay. I had written many films before, but I hadn't gone into production and made one.
Thank you.
I wrote my first film 20 years ago. I did an adaptation of one of my plays for a movie star, and I sold it to Hollywood. And then I moved to LA and I wrote movies for a living for a couple years. And while the movies weren't getting made for
Right.
various reasons, I was in development with a different one, and my development executive said, well, do you want to direct this? Because if you direct it, I know how to set it up. And, back in 2007, 2008, I was like, no, I don't want to direct it. But a couple years later, I thought, well, actually, maybe I do, because the director is the person that has the will and the ability to move the needle forward. The writer in Hollywood has no power. And I understood how the story needed to be embodied and what it felt like. And I understood how to put the elements together, even if I didn't always understand what it looked like. So this was the first movie I made, but it was not the first movie I wrote.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for clarifying that. But it's still 52.
Yeah, no problem.
Crazy. So I want you to take me to a moment.
No, I mean, they talk about, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish, please.
Oh, I was just going to say they talk about first-time directors all the time, but they're rarely women in their 50s.
Right.
You think about a first-time director, and there are all sorts of festivals for first-time directors. They're usually men between 25 and 35.
Wow.
Every now and then there's a girl in there, but nobody's over the age of 35, ever.
Amazing. Amazing. I want you to take me to a moment that's really been a challenge for you. That's really challenged you, whether it's personally or professionally. I mean, you've got a 14-year-old right now. You're in like the throes of like getting their temps, their license, or wearing deodorant every day, making sure they do so their room isn't stinky. I mean, I'm just a little beyond that. Mine are grown and flown, but you've got so many things you're managing as a mom and a wife and an executive producer. I mean, just amazing. I want you to, for the listeners and people watching, take me to a moment that really challenged you, where you were like, man, I could pull the covers back over my head right now and not get out of bed today. Did you have any moments like that, and how you've persevered and pushed through?
Oh my
God. Yeah. Do we have enough time?
Many moments like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, on a personal level, I'll tell you that in the middle of production, my son got COVID and I had to move out of my apartment because I couldn't bring COVID to the set. So I had to hide it from everybody on set and then sort of silently move out and live in a hotel for a week, which was actually quite nice, while we were in production, because it was a health hazard. So that's one thing. But I will tell you that in general, and this is so ironic for a director, I hate telling people what to do. And it's true as a mom too. I tell my son what to do a lot, but in a perfect world, right, we want to guide them and have them make the best choices. Right. And then that just isn't really how it works out. And on a film set, especially on an indie set where we had to shoot our film in 15 days, we had a very tight budget. We did not have room to mess around. Like, we had to get stuff right.
15 days.
We shot it in 15 days. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So most film crews work in the way that the director shows up and says, you stand there, we're going to get that shot, we're going to get that shot, we're going to get that shot. Okay, everybody, let's go. And it's not my leadership style. My leadership style is incredibly collaborative. It's probably very female. It's very nurturing. Okay, I just want to make sure, do you feel good about that? Great. And how are you feeling? Great. And if an actor says, you know what, I don't want to do it that way, I want to do something else, my impulse is to say, great, let's do it the way you feel, and we'll all adjust. But in fact, that is quite impractical on a film set. So the biggest hurdle for me, and it's, I'm being very vulnerable by sharing this, is that I had to craft a leadership style that was in integrity with who I actually am, but effective. I had to be able to get the job done without coming in and acting like some dude I saw on, Masterpiece Theater.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting.
That's hard. That's been hard for me. I had to learn how to really stand my ground.
Yeah, that is hard. That is a big challenge. Oh, absolutely. Oh, I love that. There's so much to talk about. Last two things I do, because I know we're winding down here on time, but last two things I want to ask you or talk to you about is this whole thing about kind of loving ourselves more in our 50s. You're balancing a lot. I know you mentioned, and I'm going back to earlier in the conversation when that curtain opened at Geena Davis's after she, announced the opening and you met her and everything, and you're kind of looking around, making sure the caterer's there, making sure that everybody's set, making sure that. How do you carve out time for yourself? And do you? What's your
I
self-care
have
routine?
I have a morning routine. I have a rock solid morning routine. I wake up with my son. In a perfect world, I try to remember to drink water before coffee, but that's not always what happens. I have a meditation practice. I have a yoga practice. I write down 5 things I'm grateful for every day. I have a journaling practice. Every single day, I have to do those things.
Do you really? Oh, I'm proud of you for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
And I hope everybody listening
you.
can incorporate some sort of self-care, self-love routine, because we need to treat ourselves as guest of honors like we treat everyone else. We do. We treat them with kindness and
Absolutely.
love. And
I mean, I think the real lesson in our 50s is that this is it. We're not going to miraculously wake up and be somebody else. We're not, in our 20s, it was easy to imagine that our lives could go in any direction, anything could happen. But I'm 55 right now, and I don't know if anything could happen. Like, a great many things will happen, but I don't know that like anything will happen. So if I don't love the person I am right now in my imperfect skin, then what are we talking about?
Love that. Love that. That's a mic drop right there. So I watched it on Apple TV last night. So where else?
Mm-hmm.
Ramona at Midlife. We can watch it there. You can either buy it or rent it, right?
Mm-hmm. You can buy it or rent it on Apple TV, on Prime, where Prime is our big one right now, and Fandango at home.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, that's awesome. I'll have everything in the episode notes for that, how to watch. And I would love I'm actually going to kind of when we drop this episode, I'm going to have a little questions for the people that follow me, just to find out and get some feedback for you, because I just loved it, and I would love to hear what other people think too. It's just spot on. You really did a great job, and I hope that you can savor this a little bit. I think sometimes we just go from achievement to achievement to achievement to next goal, and it's like, you got to really savor this because it's pretty remarkable.
I think you're right. I'm going to learn how.
Yeah. And you know what? We're all a work in progress, right? So last question is, I can't wait to hear your answer on this. I already have a feeling what it's going to be, but I may be off. Brooke, if you were sitting on the couch and you look over and there's Brooke at 30, what advice would you give her?
Keep going. It's not over. It's not done. You have lots and lots of time to evolve. You'll do so many things. And I will tell you that Brooke at 30 was very, very worried that she wouldn't have a child. So I would tell her that you're going to have a child. That's in your future. That's
amazing. Thank you for that. I always love that, because I think about that so often. Like, if Amy was sitting here at 30, what would she think? And, what a privilege it is.
What would she think?
I always
what
say,
would 30 think?
I was I'm a recovering perfectionist for sure, but I would go over to that Amy and just hug her and just say, I love you as you are. You're perfect. You're imperfectly perfect. And this is right where you need to be at this moment. Because I think so often we project out, or we think so many, we're planning all these things, but it's like, in this moment where you are, you're meant to be right there. And that's what I would tell her. Just embrace it.
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love that so much. 30 is when my life started to get good. My 20s were really hard. My 30s were amazing. Yep. My 40s were hard again. My 50s have been amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And I love just shining a spotlight on women like yourself that are just doing incredible things, and through collaboration and through, sharing how your passion and purpose intersected. Thank you for that, because so many people get stuck. And I hope from this episode today, from words that you've spoken, that people can say, all right, you know what? Brooke did this. I think I'm going to try this. I'm going to do something. And that's really where my heart is. And I think that's where yours is too.
I'm so glad. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the other thing that's really important in everything you're saying is to hold the people you love close to you, because I made this movie with people I love. I didn't do it by myself.
Yeah.
I wrote that movie for those actors. I called up all my friends. People really showed up for me. I asked for help, just like you're talking about. And this was a community effort as much as, an individual achievement.
Amazing. Oh, I love it. And thanks for being so flexible and being like, yeah, I can make it work. I mean, we literally pulled this together in 24 hours, not even.
Yeah, we did.
Pretty cool.
Did. It's true.
Thanks, Brooke.
Thanks for asking.
Oh, absolutely.
Have a good day.
And everybody go watch the film. All right. See ya. Thanks so much for listening today. We know how valuable your time is, and that's why we keep it short and sweet. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials, and you can check out all the links and resources in the show notes. Until next time, go forth and be awesome.